Hello and welcome to another Arsecast Extra, as always, with James from Gunnerblog. James, it's a goodly morning. I have to give you a goodly morning today.
On behalf of your nation.
Yeah, mad.
Of course.
Insane stuff. Incredible stuff. Troy Parrott, yeah. Formerly of, that lot.
I know.
But, as soon as he left, he started scoring goals, so...
Makes you think. I didn't really know. I'll confess, I didn't really know what Troy Parrott was up to these days.
I can't say I've been following his career that closely either, to be honest.
But he had a loan spell with Excelsior Rotterdam in 2023-24,
okay,
which he impressed. I think he scored 17 goals and then earned himself a permanent transfer about 18 months ago to AZ Alkmaar. And now, as far as I understand it, he's the new patron saint of Ireland.
Yep, President, Taoiseach, Taoiseach, the whole lot. What a week. 5 goals.
Did you watch much of it?
Yeah, I was in the pub having some lunch yesterday. I was in a bar having some lunch. So watched the first half in the bar. It was quite funny because... my wife said to me, who's the manager of Ireland these days? And I was like, well, it's a dentist from Iceland. And she went, why can you never give me a serious answer about anything? You always have to make some stuff up and, I'm the fool then when I believe you. I'm going, no, seriously, it's a dentist from Iceland. And, showed her the proof. And obviously watched the first half and then second half. Was on the way home. It was 2-1 to Hungary. I sort of was like, that feels par for the course. So near yet so far. Then it went to 2-2 and I was looking at live score on my phone. It went to 2-2 and then turned on for the last few minutes. And then obviously the finale, the last kick of the game to score, absolutely extraordinary. Extraordinary. Like Ireland beat Portugal, then Hungary inside a week. That's not normal for Ireland, for Irish football, It's just amazing.
It is amazing. And they made Cristiano Ronaldo very sad. They made Dominic Szoboszlai a bit sad, which I think we owed him after Anfield earlier this season.
I don't know exactly who it was in the RTE studio, but there was a video doing the rounds of the presenters and whoever it is inside the RTE studio. I think it's RTE anyway. And somebody looks at the screen after about 20 seconds of celebrating this and says, stick that up your arse, Szoboszlai, you Liverpool cunt. And then goes, sorry about that. This was all fair, by the way. So yeah, it's been a hell of a week. Ronaldo, the red card, the crying and the gestures and all that kind of stuff. That's just pure entertainment as it is. And then to follow it up with that kind of a win, I'm sure you've seen some of the videos and the video of like the people watching in Dublin airport just all going absolutely mental. I'd say there are some very, very, very sore heads in this land this morning.
Oh, good. I'm glad. And through to the playoffs. Playoffs beckon.
Yeah, they're in the playoffs. Yeah.
Very, very emotional scenes. And Seamus Coleman. A lot of the commentators kept saying, look at Seamus Coleman. It's like he's played for played for Ireland for about, 40 years?
Something like that. Yeah.
You could see what it meant. So, yeah, incredible. And as last gasp goals go, it was a really celebratable one. Even the way it happened, like the way he kind of snatches it away from the goalkeeper.
I know.
Just gets there in time.
I know we've probably got some listeners in Hungary, but the difference. The Hungary players slumped to the floor. The Ireland players are going absolutely crazy. It's just. He said in his interview afterwards, this is why we love football, because things like this can happen, you know? And I'm sure as we go on in this podcast and we discuss some of the things that have happened during the international break, there is this idea that internationals, what a load of shit, et cetera, et cetera. And look, you know, I've been on record many times as saying I'm not the biggest fan of international football, but it's impossible not to get caught up in those moments and not to enjoy the emotion of them. Obviously, if you're an Irishman and not a Hungarian man or woman. But, you know, the way we sometimes think about international football as fans, and maybe it's something that's also, well, I guess inevitably it's going to be fans of the big clubs because they have the best players, etc. You know, that what we think as fans is very far removed from the way that the players themselves think about international games and international commitments. We'd rather they didn't have them. They love them. They absolutely adore playing for their countries. And that's the balance we kind of have to find with stuff like this.
Yeah, and even among the supporters as well. I mean, we're here recording an Arsenal-specific podcast. You're listening to an Arsenal-specific podcast. We are all, whether we like to admit it or not, we are firmly at one end of the sort of club v country spectrum, right? But there's a lot of people, a lot of fans who are like much more casual, to whom international football, I think, is a much bigger deal. And it is nice, I always find, to have those moments where it cuts across club loyalties in that way. You know, everyone in that airport is just losing their minds together.
Do you think there's something, you know, in the modern world of football where there's so much cognitive dissonance required and so much compromise required about all kinds of things, you know, ownership and sponsors and players and all of these things that we have to sort of try and compartmentalize to the best of our ability, that actually international football really just does kind of come down to the badge on the shirt. And there's something a bit more pure, if that's the right way of putting it, about the international game, particularly when you get moments like this. You know, that it isn't quite as, I mean, I could be completely wrong because we're talking about stuff that's organized by FIFA, but it just sort of feels a bit that way, you know? Where,
I hear you. I was, while you were talking, just sort of picturing like Infantino, you know, just clasping his hands together in the fashion.
Today I feel like an Irishman. Fuck off, you baldy ghoul.
Yeah, and listen, of course, like in England, I think like something that's sort of, and probably in other countries as well, is that sort of national team support is kind of like very muddied and muddled with feelings around nationalism and some of the dangers associated with that. So pure, I don't know, but I also know exactly what you mean, that there's something, you know, despite FIFA's best efforts, it remains relatively uncommercial in some respects.
Yeah.
The players aren't there for the money. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like that alone gives it, so that's my phone going, but that alone gives it something a little bit different. I actually am like, I mean, I hesitate to say this in an international break where Arsenal appear to have sustained an important injury, which we'll get onto. But you know, I do love an international tournament. I really, really do. I am sort of loath to be patient with all the qualifiers and the Nations League and the friendlies and all those things. But a World Cup or a Euros can make a summer for me. I think they're fantastic. So it's a big prize Ireland are playing for, and given both my friendship with you and my small genetic inheritance, I hope they make it. I will, if they get there, Andrew, I will dress as a parrot for the entirety of the World Cup. I will arrive on the shores of the US in full parrot regalia,
big green parrot,
only to Polly, and eating only crackers.
I mean,
along with the rest of the Irish people. By the way,
sure,
Troy Parrott, obviously, as we say, new patron saint of Ireland. We have a new national hero of our own here in England. I believe the statues are being built. I think he's going to be named in the New Year's honours list as well. Arise, Sir Phil Foden. I don't know if you're aware, but he played a 5-yard pass to Eberechi Eze.
He did all the hard work.
He did all the hard work, and as a nation, we sort of fall at his feet. Really, I've got my tattoo booked this afternoon. I'm getting his name and number just across, not my back actually, but my face. I'm going to get the name on my forehead and then the number just on the sort of lower parts of my face.
Just the tip of your nose.
Yeah. It's extraordinary. I mean, yeah.
I have to ask you, I've got to ask you about that, because I feel like, you know, it's, I'm sort of removed from it, but I did see the clip of Eberechi Eze being asked by the interviewer, is it fair to say that, you know, the pass from Phil Foden did all the hard work? Something like that. And I hadn't seen the goal at that point. I saw the clip and I was going, oh, wow, I wonder what Phil Foden did here. It must have been something extraordinary. Remember that pass that Dennis Bergkamp played to Patrick Vieira at Stamford Bridge? Do you remember that one with the outside of his foot? And Vieira scored the goal, and the Stamford Bridge net rattle, which is one of the greatest sounds in the world when you score there. What an extraordinary pass that was. Mm-hmm. And I thought he must have done something like that. And then I saw it, and I saw the finish, and I was like, I feel like maybe the focus is a little bit wrong here, because one of those things was extraordinarily difficult to do, and the other thing, while fine, was something you would expect from any basic competent footballer in that position. So, I mean, what did you make of that?
Well, it was pretty extraordinary. It was quite a how can I put it? They had it covered off on all angles. I mean, the TV commentary went really big on Foden's contribution to the goal. The interview after the game with Eze was all about, you know, the pass makes the goal for you. Even the England official X account, when it posted about the goal, used the phrase "Foden put it on a plate" for Eberechi Eze.
Sorry, but what the fuck is that? You put it on a plate.
I don't know, man. I like, from a sort of technical perspective, I do think the pass contributes to the finish, because actually I don't think it's a brilliant pass. That's the irony of ironies. Like, it's a bit bobbly, and I think that's what enables Eze to, or gives him the idea maybe to sort of hit it so early, and it gives it a little bit of lift into that top corner. But that's not because it's a great pass. It's a bang average pass that turns into something fantastic. I really think that we as a nation have a bit of there's a Gascoigne complex, I think. And I think Phil Foden is the sort of latest symptom of that. There have been many, I suppose notably Wayne Rooney, but, you know, I even remember similar debates around kind of Matt Le Tissier and other sort of seemingly individualistic talents. And I think a lot of pundits and commentators went very hard on Phil Foden as sort of Gaza incarnate quite early on in his career. And I do think there is a kind of palpable desperation to see that come to fruition and for that kind of prophecy to be realised. I think that is a big component in it. There might be other kind of socio-political dynamics there as well, about our expectations and our attitudes around certain players or players from different backgrounds, or I don't know. It's like, you know, the willingness to embrace certain players over others that you could draw inferences from as well. It was very, 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 very odd. And I still am kind of flabbergasted, really, at how that played out.
Yeah, I mean, some people, to bring it down to brass tacks, will say that they're, over-indexing the contribution of the white guy and under-indexing what the black guy did.
Very difficult to refute that, isn't it? I mean,
absolutely, yeah.
That is what it looks like, frankly. I think that in mitigation, I think that Gaza complex is real, and I think, but Phil Foden, as far as I can see, has never really produced for England in any meaningful way.
No,
and there's always every year, every tournament, there's this big debate about, how do we get Phil Foden in? Where's Phil Foden going to play? And I can answer that question very quickly. If everyone's fit, he won't.
Yeah.
I mean, Saka will play from the right.
As he should.
Pardon?
As he should.
As he should, yeah. And,
and he scored, by the way, in that game.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
In the break. Bit of a shin, but a really good take, I thought. The left is kind of open to debate. And then the 10, I mean, they said, will it be Morgan Rogers? Will it be Jude Bellingham? If Cole Palmer is fit and in form, it'll probably be Cole Palmer, to be honest. So, yeah, well, look, I'd have any of those three. Bellingham, Rogers, Palmer. They'd probably all be ahead of Foden for me in my England selection.
Yeah.
So it's very, very odd. And as it's a beautiful, brilliant finish. I mean, the real shame of it is that he's not sort of had the credit and the flowers that he deserves.
Of course, yeah.
A beautiful finish. But it is something that, like, you on the one hand, you sort of roll your eyes at it. On the other hand, you're like, what is this illustrative of? It feels quite pernicious, really.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, I think you're right to say that Eze deserves the flowers and the plaudits for what was an absolutely brilliant goal. So he can get some of those here because that's the kind of thing we want to see from him in an Arsenal shirt. It's the kind of thing we know he's capable of. And look, the two Arsenal lads made a good contribution to England over the course of this international break. England qualified for the World Cup unbeaten, or did they win all their games? Am I right in saying that? I think they won all their games.
They breezed through it. Yeah, I don't know the ins and outs, but they look very strong. Harry Kane, our old friend Harry Kane, who we'll see at the Emirates shortly, just over a week's time. He's not in bad form.
No.
So yeah, I think England look really, really good. Like,
played 8, won 8. By the way,
say that again. Sorry.
Played 8, won 8. Scored 22, conceded 0.
Yeah. I mean, look, they've not been hugely tested, but and it's been a slow burn with Tuchel. Like, I think some of the early games are quite uninspiring, but and I don't think they're ever going to be particularly inspiring. I don't think England are going to go and take the World Cup by storm with a sort of breathtaking brand of attacking football, but they are a bit of a machine, to use a term that we've applied to Arsenal, and they're very strong structure. They have Declan Rice, and we know what that can do for a team. I mean, they in midfield they gobble up all those, but it's Hungry Hippos in there.
Hungary Hippos.
Hungary Hippos.
Hungary Hippos. Yeah, Declan Rice obviously looking on yesterday with tears in his eyes, wishing he could be part of that Ireland team.
So yeah, I mean, look, they look strong, and I was pleased for Saka and pleased for Eze. The first game, I was sort of had my heart in my mouth a bit because Saka was sort of having words with the touchline, wasn't he? And commentators were saying, is he moving freely? It turned out he wanted to change his boots, basically.
Yeah.
But it gave me enough of a scare. Not as much of a scare as Brazil have given me, of course.
Yeah.
That's the big Arsenal news, really, isn't it?
It is, yeah. The injury to Gabriel. I don't quite know what it is. Carlo Ancelotti said it's an adductor. There's some talk about it being a thigh issue. I saw mention of a knee problem as well. So there's a lot of info out there without a lot of clarity. But what is clear is that he had to come off in the game. And given the schedule, given the games, the caliber of opposition that we've got to face over the next little while, it's a big blow. And listen, he's been one of our best players so far this season. I think there's a sort of a handful of players who you could say, right, they're all pretty much playing at the top of their game. Jurriën Timber, Declan Rice, probably Leandro Trossard as well when it comes to end product. But Gabriel in particular, I think, is somebody who I think we said, and you've heard it said, that he's maybe in the best form of his Arsenal career. So to pick up an injury while playing a friendly for Brazil is a real blow and will be a concern for Mikel Arteta. What's your, based on what we've said about international football and the way players think about it versus the way fans think about it, I saw a lot of people saying, well, Gabriel should be refusing to play in games like this. It's just a friendly. What's he doing? Et cetera, et cetera. But I think it is all part of the same thing, isn't it? That, managers need time with their players because international managers don't get a lot of time to work on things. So using your best players makes sense, even if it is a friendly. Could they have been a bit more cautious with him? Could Gabriel have said, I can only play a half? It's, I don't know where I stand on this particularly. I just think it's unfortunate more than anything else. I think trying to point fingers at the frailty of the human body you're never going to win, really, are you?
No, I can understand people's frustrations.
Sure, me too, yeah.
It hasn't happened on Arsenal's time, as it were. This was never a game. Gabriel was always going to play this. Playing for the Brazilian national team in a World Cup season at his home ground, the Emirates Stadium. I think his leg would have had to come off, basically, for him to not be involved. And I do think that we, as a fan base, I think as club fans generally, we do underestimate what it means to players to represent their country. And maybe Brazilians more than most. Like, they are one of those nations who there is such an intense focus and scrutiny on the national team. I think I've heard Tim Stillman talk about this before. It's such a goal for every Brazilian footballer and such an honour for them to be involved in it that I just don't think it's realistic to expect him to kind of step aside. And I actually think the World Cup year is kind of an interesting element in the season. It does, for a club manager, it's potentially a kind of challenge to be overcome. In other international years, you might be able to persuade a player that going off to join up with the national team is not ideal, but I just think they're all going to be, the nations that are in with a chance of being there, the Irish, for example, are all going to be so desperate to be involved that, you're fighting a losing battle, basically, as a club manager.
Yeah, it's a bit ironic in the sense that the last international break, Brazil travelled to, I think, South Korea and Japan. So
halfway around the world.
Yeah, halfway around the world. Lots of travel, time zone differences, climate differences, all those kinds of things. It's a bit like Gyökeres getting the week off before the game against whoever it was. Who was it? Burnley away?
Yeah.
So
Burnley away, he got injured. Yes,
was that exactly the one at half time? Yeah, exactly. So he'd had the week off, or didn't play in midweek.
Didn't play in the Carabao game.
Exactly, and everyone's going, "That's great. We've rested him, and now he's going to be fit and ready for the weekend." And then he picks up a hamstring strain. And with Gabriel, he did all that travel with Brazil for the previous games, came through unscathed. I think he played one of the games. I'm not sure he played both, but this is a game taking place at the stadium he plays in every week, every other week. It's just, I think it is more than anything just unfortunate and one of those things. Is it any more or less of a blow if he gets injured in training? If he gets injured in training and is missing for a few weeks, it's still the same absence. You still have the same problem to solve. It's just that you don't get the anger because it feels like something that was out of our control. I guess there would be anger if he got injured in training for Arsenal. People would be saying, what are we doing in training? Well, what's he got them doing that's got players getting injured, etc. So I don't think you're ever going to placate the angriest of angry people, the angriest man on Twitter and all that, right? But it is a problem now for Mikel Arteta to come up with a solution for. I think, the thing to say is that this is bad. It's bad to lose Gabriel. There's no sugarcoating that, I don't think. But it could be worse because we have options available to us that maybe in the past we haven't had, certainly a variety of options. It's not even a case that right now, like let's say last season, Gabriel gets injured. You're like, what do we do? It's Jakub Kiwior. Kiwior came in, did really well when Gabriel was out last season. But this time around, the manager has got some thinking to do about how he solves that particular problem.
Yeah, it's interesting because occasionally we get asked on the podcast, in fact, I think somebody asked us this week, like, if you could protect an Arsenal player from injury, who right now, who would it be? And I don't mind saying this now. I'm glad I'm saying this now after the fact. If I'd said it before, the amount of hate I'd be getting online for jinxing it would be intolerable. But I think at the moment, Gabriel kind of would be mine in that I just think he's been so massive for us in both boxes. He's been really decisive in key moments in games. So it's undoubtedly a blow. But as you say, we don't know the extent of it yet, but we also have options. The extent to which Ricardo Calafiori is an option is, again, somewhat interesting. He hasn't played for Italy during this international break. Certainly, if you speak to people around him, the suggestion is that he's okay. Like there's not a specific injury there. It's just sort of load and pain management at a time where Italy, I think I'm right in saying Italy couldn't qualify after the first game. Is that right?
I don't know. I presume they're going to be in the playoffs. They got beaten 4-1 by Norway, who've had an incredible qualifying campaign, by the way. Just looking at the table here, Italy in second. I think.
Yeah, so they sort of couldn't be anywhere other than second is the right thing.
Yeah.
Which may have played in the decision to allow him to return to Arsenal. That's what I've heard, that it's sort of load management and nothing too serious. But when it's a player with that kind of injury history, you can't help but sort of be have a nagging worry there as well. Yeah, sure.
But those are the options. We did have questions. Let me see if I can find one here. Although I did like this from Boston Gooner 77 on the Discord. He said, with all three Gabriels now injured, is there an available Gabriel without a team we can sign quickly so our Gabriel equilibrium is restored? We're low on Gabbies. We had all the Gabbies.
Jesus, presumably edging closer, having been back in some form of group training before the break. And we don't know about Gabriel Martinelli. The Spurs game was a target for him. I think there was a bit of a feeling that maybe it might be a fraction too soon, that maybe like Bayern might be more realistic. I guess we won't find out when we have Mikel Arteta's press conference.
No, we won't. Spurs game. We won't. I don't know. I have a Martinelli goal versus Spurs in my mind. I can envisage that. I don't know why, but let's see what happens there. But back to sort of Big Gabby and what we do, what we do in his absence. The Purple Onion on the Discord said, "Hello, gents. With Gabriel probably out for a while, would you rather see Mosquera step in, or try and get one of our left backs into centre back for a consistent run?" So the options, as we see them, are Christian Mosquera, or he could play Piero Hincapié in there, or indeed he could play Riccardo Calafiori in there, where he does play for Italy but hasn't played a great deal for Arsenal since his arrival. So, there are good options there for Arteta. It's just about who he feels is the right one for the kind of games that we've got coming up.
Yeah, really interesting. Especially, I mean, obviously, Calafiori, as I say, we can't be 100%, but I suppose if we take it that he is going to be available, you're looking for a direct replacement, a left centre-back. I mean, until now in this season, it has been Christian Mosquera, right? When a centre-half's not been available, he has stepped in, and he hasn't really put a foot wrong. The only thing that slightly changes things is, it's Gabriel missing now, not Saliba, so it means playing on the left side rather than right. I'm sure he's perfectly capable of doing it, but it is a slightly different dynamic. And the other factor, I think, is the availability now of Hincapié, who is not just fit, but has had some game time, has played during the international break, and I think comes into strong consideration.
Yeah, I mean, I think you mentioned a couple of weeks ago on here that the signing of Hincapié was more about left back than centre back, but he certainly does fit the profile. Typically, I think he has played centrally, in inverted commas, as part of a 3 rather than part of a 2. So I don't really know his track record as a sort of left-sided centre half on his own. But he certainly is somebody who could slot in there profile-wise in terms of physicality, and also the fact he is a left-footed player, whereas Mosquera is right-footed. And typically Arteta does like that balance of a right foot and left foot centre-half combo.
That is a good point. I think I would probably pick Mosquera. I just think he hasn't put a foot wrong. He retains some of Gabriel's height and physicality, and I think he deserves the start. Actually, I think that he has shown that he's able to kind of step into the breach there. So I think that's kind of where I would be. My gut is telling me that Arteta will pick Hincapié.
Right.
Just on the balance of experience, and from hearing the way Arteta talks about him, describing him as a warrior and that sort of force of personality that I think he'll be keen to replace if we lose Gabriel. Gabriel is a leadership figure in this team too, and I just wonder, does he see Hincapié's experience and presence as being a closer fit and
aggression? Maybe I think that's that's the other thing. I sort of agree with you here that I think I'd be quite happy with Mosquera. I feel like he's been more earmarked for right-sided deployment, if you like, because he played at right back a bit. He played for Saliba, obviously came on at Anfield and did really, really well there. I think he could do the job. But if you have Hincapié and you are missing, like you say, the leadership of Gabriel, the sort of physical power of Gabriel as well, and you want to maintain that left foot, right foot balance, then I think Hincapié is the guy who might just get the run. And the fact that before the break they were keen to give him minutes to get him up to speed just maybe suggests to me that might be the way he goes. But, we'll wait and see. We could be wrong.
If Calafiori is okay and is available, would you give consideration to playing him at centre-half and then putting, I don't know, Hincapié or Miles in as a left-back?
I mean, you definitely could do that. I do wonder if it might be it might be better to keep Calafiori at left back in the position that he's done very, very well in so far this season, particularly when it comes to the games in question.
It's two changes rather than one, isn't it? That's the thing. And I also think if you were asking me to name games where I thought we might want a centre-half who is prone to sort of disappearing up the pitch and getting involved with the attack and, vacating that space, I probably wouldn't choose the North London derby, Bayern Munich at home and Chelsea away.
No.
Necessarily as like Calafiori at centre-half games.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the instructions to Calafiori would probably be, be a bit more disciplined in terms of your positioning. You're playing at centre-half and you don't have that freedom to do what he does. But I think the natural instincts he has to try and contribute further forward may come into play. I don't know. I mean, I think if you're told, look, this is your job, this is your job. But listen.
I mean, you could do it because I suppose, let's say you picked Nketiah left back and Calafiori as your left-sided centre-half. Maybe you still give Calafiori that licence and you just say to Nketiah, when he goes, you tuck in with Saliba and Timber and that's your back three unit, right?
Yeah.
But again, you're changing quite a lot structurally there to make that happen.
Sure. There was a really good interview with Christian Mosquera, Sid Lowe in The Guardian, who always does such good pieces, did a fantastic interview with Mosquera, who's away with Spain's under-21s. They're playing tomorrow night. He didn't play in their game the other night, but did you get a chance to read that?
Yeah, I saw he was talking about, his long-standing admiration for Arsenal, which I enjoyed.
I mean, which version of Arsenal do you think he was watching at that time,
Yeah, true, yeah. Maybe we should question his taste, depending on the version. But
a glutton for punishment, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah. I know, I mean, listen, obviously, Sid's a great interviewer, and I thought it was a really good chat, actually. Like, for a young man, I thought he spoke really well and was really open and interesting, and he's a player I really, really like. I mean, we spent a lot of money this summer and had many, many different signings. But in terms of sort of the expectation versus what they've delivered,
sure,
he's right up there.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's a great, I mean, it really is a great interview. If you haven't read it, I'll put a link to it in the show notes. It's worth your time. And I think as well, there was stuff in there about the journey that he's been on and his family has been on. His parents came to Spain from Colombia and made a new life there. And he's talking about, his dad would do whatever he could in terms of work, working on building sites one month and then washing dishes in a restaurant. And his mother would clean houses. And he left home at 12 to join the Valencia Academy, which is an incredible thing to do. We've often talked about Max Dowman, right? And how remarkable it is that he is doing what he's doing at 15. But Max Dowman has got his family all around him, and this is not a criticism or anything like that. He's got his family around him. He's at home, he's used to where he is. He's got those support mechanisms around him. Christian Mosquera leaves home at 12 to join the Valencia Academy, not knowing, am I going to make it or not? How hard is this going to be? And I just think right now, in the sort of times in which we live, in which, people like Christian Mosquera's parents are routinely sort of demonized in the press because they are people who want to go somewhere and make a new life and a better life for themselves and a better life for their kids and to have a better future. I think that is an illustration of, what most people want when it comes to their own lives, when it comes to emigration or immigration or however you want to put it. It is about opportunity and about making sure that you can give your kids a better life. And he's followed on. I'm sure it wasn't easy to move from Colombia to Spain. And here he is, this kid of Colombian descent who is representing Spain at under 21 level, who's now living in England, playing for one of the biggest clubs in the world. It's an aspirational story, I think, for many.
Yeah, it is. And huge sacrifices made by his family and by himself to get him to that point.
Yeah.
And what will happen, probably he'll bend one in the top corner for Spain in the World Cup one day, but the guy who gives him a 3-yard pass will take all the credit. You fear.
Speaking of Spain and goal scorers, Martin Zubimendi was on the score sheet for Spain. They beat Georgia 4-0. He played the full game. Nice goal. Don't know why he's sort of popping up in that area, but fair play. He's sort of centre forward and finishing very nicely from close range. He played the full 90. Mikel Merino started and got a yellow card, didn't score, so it's all over for Mikel Merino.
Finished. Now. Yeah. It is interesting about Zubimendi. I mean, I always remember when he came over. Apologies because I have said this once or twice before, but I remember chatting to someone who knew him well, and they were saying like there is an attacking dimension to his game that he has not exhibited really thus far because of the role he's been playing at Real Sociedad. And we have seen a little bit more of it at Arsenal. Obviously, he scored the other day for Spain, scored a brace for us earlier in the season, even in the last game before the break. Very particular match scenario, I suppose, with us being behind against the Sunderland team who are inclined to sit deep. But he struck the bar. He nearly got on the end of that pass from Trossard. He was making those runs from deep into the penalty box time after time after time. So I do wonder if, we've spoken a lot about Declan Rice, his role shifting this season to drop in a little bit deeper next to Martin Zubimendi. But I do wonder as well if that's giving him maybe more license than he's accustomed to get forward. And that might be a sort of another string to his bow.
Yeah, I mean, people talked, when he came in, is he going to be able to do what the previous incumbents in that number 6 position did? Can he defend? Can he dictate play? Can he control the tempo of the play? But I don't think anyone was really expecting the effectiveness in the final third. Maybe because we didn't watch enough of Real Sociedad down the years, and this might not be news to seasoned Zubimendi watchers, but certainly it's an aspect of his game that I wasn't necessarily expecting to come to the fore quite as quickly. I thought maybe when he settled in, because of the technical quality he has, that was always going to be something he could do, contribute with some goals and assists, etc., etc. But the willingness to get forward, and I guess when you've got that defensive cover behind you, it also gives you more license to get forward if you're Martin Zubimendi, when you've got this brilliant defence behind you too.
Yeah, and I think even if you are ostensibly a number 6, a player who's discussed maybe as a sort of defence-minded midfielder, I don't think that's enough really anymore if you want to be right at the top level. We know Declan Rice, whatever position he plays, whether it's at the very base of the midfield or slightly higher up, he has aspirations and ability to influence games by making goals, getting goals. I mean, who is the best number 6 in the world? Well, we'll see when he comes back from his injury, but potentially Rodri. And he has been a match winner on many an occasion for Man City. Right? He's found a way to be a threat in that final third. And I think probably, Martin Zubimendi's in the same national squad as him. He probably looks at someone like Rodri and thinks, if I want to be regarded at that absolutely elite level, I need to have every aspect to my game, and that is one of them. So I think that's sort of an interesting little development angle to watch with him over the course of the season. But yeah, I'm glad Mikel Merino started saving up all his goals for Arsenal. Yes.
Hopefully in the North London derby, a couple would be good. Before we go into the break, the only other bit of news that came to fore in the international break was Declan Rice being nominated for the Puskas Award. His second free kick against Real Madrid is up there, one of the contenders for I guess it's the goal of the year or the goal of the season award. So, listen, we've spoken about this before. I'm very much a sort of first free kick truther, but I recognise the quality of this second one.
Yeah, for me, I'm more in the camp of the second one. The first free kick's great, don't get me wrong, but I think the second's just a level up. But yeah, good luck to him, and I'm pleased to see it recognised. He's probably due another one, isn't he? How about Sunday against Spurs?
Absolutely. I think he'd prefer that than some, award from FIFA, which I feel might well be, undermined by other awards they could be giving out in the not too distant future. So, all right, we'll wait and see what happens with that one. Okay, we'll take a little break here. We will come back with some of your questions and more in part 2 right after this. Welcome back to the Arsecast Extra. This is part 2 of the show where we answer the questions that you sent to us on Blue Sky at gunnerblog.bsky.social and at arseblog.com. Also on the Arseblog Discord chat server, which you get access to if you are an Arseblog member on Patreon. I'm going to go first, if that's all right. And this one comes from Dr. Ozzy on the Discord. And he says, as an American fan who also loves the NFL, I'm curious how you guys feel about injury reporting in football. In the NFL, they're required to report every injury, who practices, and for how much every practice. And they give designations for who's out the day before the game. Do you like the fact that football doesn't have any regulation or requirements for injury as a way to play the dark arts? Or do you wish there were more standards?
Well, my answer might differ on if you're asking me as a reporter or as a fan. It's a really interesting question, that. And I must admit, I'm not au fait with sort of the NFL's sort of mechanisms around this. I don't follow the NFL closely. So you'll have to forgive my slight naivety on that front. I think I don't really have an issue with clubs keeping that information in-house. If anything, I think it kind of adds a bit of drama or suspense to proceedings that I think is kind of worth our uncertainty. I think the ability to kind of spring a surprise and bring a player back ahead of time or what have you, I think is always quite exciting when it happens. So it's very difficult to do, though. I mean, as much as they don't have daily bulletins or anything like that, they are being repeatedly asked in press conferences, and there are pictures frequently from training sessions which people are doing their own detective work on. So I think I think keeping that sort of layer of secrecy is difficult. But yeah, I understand why fans want to know. And these days, a lot of fans want to know because they've got fantasy teams.
Well, that's what I was going to say, yeah.
That's a big driver. But really, I'm like, do we need to know? Do you know what I mean? Like, I sort of think that's the club's prerogative. And I understand Mikel Arteta's instinct to kind of be protective of that, even if I do occasionally, as a reporter, find it frustrating.
Sure.
What do you think?
I'm like that. I would love to know, but I don't feel like I have any right to know.
Especially medical information. I mean, like,
well, there is a privacy element there too. Yeah.
And that's always actually something when you're reporting around injuries or absences, you have to be mindful of or careful of. I mean, the media run relatively roughshod over those regulations, but it is a factor in those conversations. I mean, the players theoretically are entitled to their privacy with their medical records.
Sure.
So, yeah, I'm nosy, and it's my job to find out and to know. But equally, I don't begrudge the club wanting to.
No, I mean, there was a time where we sort of did that. I think it was under the. It was when Unai Emery was the head coach, and they would do every week like a medical bulletin. This is the latest from the medical team. X player is out for 3 weeks. X player is out for blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
I never really saw what the benefit of that was for the club itself. Like for us, it's great to have that info, and if you're picking your fantasy football team, it's fantastic to have that info because you can say, well, that guy's injured and that means this guy's probably going to play, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I never understood what the benefit was for the club to be that transparent about injuries. It always felt counterproductive in a way because you're tipping your hat or tipping your hand to the opposition before you play a game. And I completely understand why Arteta is reluctant in any way to give information about players. Like sometimes he'll say in a press conference, well, we'll assess them in the morning and see how they are. And this is a guy you won't see for like 5 weeks or something. But he won't categorically say, well, no, he's not going to play. I think he just wants to leave it as a possibility in the mind of the opposition coach or analysts or whoever it is. I don't know how much difference that actually makes, really, in the grand scheme of things. But I think if I were a manager, if I was in charge of Arsenal Football Club, heaven help everybody involved if that was the case. But if I was in that job tomorrow morning, that is what I would do. I would be exactly the same. I'd give nothing away. And I would, as Arteta has done since he arrived, ensure that sort of leaks and moles were rooted out and sent to an island to live there forever.
Yeah, I suspect that there is actually a sort of espionage element to first team preparations. Like I as much as Arteta might try to deflect and not answer questions, I think a Premier League club with the resources and network they have at their disposal, they probably can get pretty close to knowing what a team is planning. I suspect, and I think Mikel Arteta is so thorough. I have no information to support this, but I bet it's somebody in the coaching staff's job or some analyst to literally go and like find out who they're going to play. You know what I mean? Like I think that's. Was it Bielsa who got caught spying on a training ground or something?
Yeah. When was that? Well, I can't remember who it was.
But I think much more subtle versions of that presumably are going on all the time, right? You know, a coaching staff asking one player who asks another player you know what I mean? Like a kind of an espionage network to kind of find out information. Yeah, I'm sure that's happening. But
Marcelo Bielsa has admitted Leeds United have spied on all their opponents this season, but remains adamant no specific rules were broken and believes he is guilty of stupidity rather than cheating.
Yeah. So, I mean, listen, I'd like to think Arsenal and Mikel Arteta's methods are probably a bit more subtle than that one.
Is there a man in a long trench coat standing behind a tree and then going, and then standing behind an even thinner tree looking at the training of other teams?
Exactly that. As for like why we published that information at the time, my memory might fail me slightly, but I seem to recall that was coming after a period where Arsenal had been sort of heavily criticised for being injury prone or suffering a lot of injuries. I mean, plus ça change, some might say.
I was going to say, but that must have fucking difference.
It's a recurrent theme. But I think probably the people who get frustrated by the sort of fog of war or the lack of clarity or information are probably actually medical departments themselves, because especially if they're getting a bit of a kicking on social media or in public from people saying, you know, why haven't we got clear recovery timelines or dates that we're getting people back? Why is so-and-so still injured? Invariably, medical professionals are kind of following the science and the guidelines and doing the right thing. But when that information's not in the public domain, there's kind of a gap there which people can project incompetence into. So it wouldn't surprise me if kind of the drive to share that information more widely, more publicly, maybe came from those medical departments, medical professionals. I
think you're probably right. You know, that there was a lot of scrutiny on the physios, on the medical team, you know, the headlines. Is Gary O'Driscoll Harold Shipman? Those kinds of things.
Yeah. That kind of narrative. And I think sort of being transparent is a way of sort of pushing back against that and showing you are doing everything right. So my guess would be that would be where that emanated from. But you can still ask, as you just did, is that in the club's interests? It might be in the interests of that department or those professionals. But does it help the manager do his job? Not particularly, no. I would say. And any disguise, any fog of war that can be created, I think we know Mikel Arteta is going to leverage that. So we joked about it earlier about Ricardo Calafiori, but I think I'm going to the press conference on Friday, or maybe I think actually Art's going. I don't expect him to return with any real knowledge of who's going to play against Spurs on Sunday. Arteta's hinted or suggested they could have a few players back in contention who've been out injured. I would be really surprised if he's any more specific than that.
Yeah, I mean, he might say that, one or two players are back in full training, and we'll assess them in the morning after training to see if they can be involved. It'll be something like that. There might be some scant info, but no definite. Well, Martin Odegaard is 100% fit and he'll be starting this game. There's not that sort of stuff at all. So
No. Yeah. So, and actually coming off an interlull and coming off a period where a number of players have been out, he's probably got a bit more disguise than normal. I think this is one of those occasions where it would be very hard to accurately predict the starting lineup for Spurs on Sunday.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, look, I get it. As fans, we all want to know who's going to play. And I do think fantasy football has really lit a fire under the kind of hunger for team news, hasn't it?
For sure.
It's more in demand than ever.
Not my thing. But, lots of people do.
You're going for bottom of the league again, right?
I gave up after 3 weeks.
You're too good.
A couple of seasons ago, I was really trying to finish bottom of our league because we have fantasy football for our Patreon members. So I was trying really, really hard, making loads of transfers every week. And then somebody beat me. I was like, I can't even finish last. What's the fucking point of this? So I think I've picked a team at the start of the season, and I've got no idea how it's doing right now.
Nice. How about this? Master Johnbury on the Discord said, how different do you think the rhythm of the season would be without international breaks? I actually sometimes welcome the chance to have a quick reprieve and change of pace from the Premier League grind. Do you think the players feel similarly? And who do you think these interruptions tend to benefit?
I think we have, over the last little while, said this international break has kind of come at a good time. I remember having that discussion a couple of times of late. There are other times where you're sort of motoring along and you're thinking, okay, I wish we weren't going to get interrupted here. And then the international break comes along. I mean, so the rhythm of the season... If there weren't internationals, I think there just wouldn't be these breaks. I think they would just spread the games out a little bit more. For some of the players, the international break is 2 weeks off in inverted commas, because, they're going to be training and what have you. But 2 weeks without playing a competitive game, I just think that it would be easier to squeeze all the other football in. Maybe the schedule, the Premier League schedule, gets elongated. Maybe you do get a chance if you don't have the internationals to do a winter break. Remember where there was 2 weeks, a couple of seasons they did that, where there was 2 weeks without a game. So sort of half the teams would play 1 week, half the teams would play the following week, and it meant everybody got a 2 week break one way or the other. That's sort of gone by the wayside because of the way the schedule operates now. There's just no room for that. So I don't know. I mean, I really can't answer that from the perspective of a player, though. Would they be happy? There must be times where they sort of do 8-9 games in a row and then there's a little bit of a break. And maybe even psychologically, the international break or playing for your country is sort of like a way of not switching off from club stuff, but sort of a change of scenery. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Change is as good as a rest, etc., etc.
Yeah, I mean, this is sort of anecdotal experience, rather than... I ain't been out and surveyed the players, but I think they do appreciate it. And I think they do enjoy a bit of respite from the Premier League. I mean, if you're not called up, as you say, it means 2 weeks, yes, where you're going into work and you're training, but you're not travelling to games. You're probably spending more time at home than you do at any other point in the season and spending time with family, etc. And that's probably appreciated. If you are called up, if you are a foreign player in the Premier League, it may well mean going home. It may well mean seeing family and friends and people who you've left behind.
Sure.
Even if briefly, family, if you're an international player for Spain or Germany, families probably come to the game. You hang out around the match, hang out after. I'm sure that that's important to players. And I think even just being around 25 other lads who speak your language and are from your culture, as much as I'm sure they all get on at Arsenal and it's clear that it's a really positive atmosphere, I think there is something to be said for feeling like you're home.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think that's really beneficial. And players, I always say this, as much as club fans might scoff at international football, you can't you can't discount how much it does mean and how much players typically enjoy their involvement with the national teams. I think where it gets tricky is sort of there's two things that jump out at me from a player perspective. One is when they have crazy travel. So, we spoke about the Brazil trip to Asia, for example. As much as they're excited to be with the Seleção and representing their country and seeing their friends and all those things, I can't imagine they or certainly the club are thrilled about the travel involved.
No, 12-hour. Nobody likes a 12-hour or 14-hour flight, even if you are in the comfort of, first class or business class or whatever way they travel on these, planes. I think the things are a lot better than they were, and it's a lot more comfortable, a lot less trying on the players. But still, you have to sit 14 hours in a plane. Nobody
there's
likes
a physiological
that.
impact to that, right? And then the other thing is the timing of the break. So I actually think at this stage of the season, the players, I would imagine they're sort of okay with it. I think it's the March one, particularly. It just feels to me like that is the business end of the season. And a lot of players there are focused on the club outcome. And you always see the kind of withdrawal rate from international squads go up at that time. Maybe less so in a World Cup year, but typically when those squads are named, there's like immediately half a dozen players who pull out with like spurious concerns. And I think it's because when you're at that business end, when you are approaching the run-in, I think at that point, it does start to feel like a bit of an unwelcome distraction.
Yeah, maybe so.
So that's always the one that sort of, I think, jars most. As a fan, we kind of lament the breaks, but then you and I have a professional interest as well, where, to be honest, the break probably helps us a little bit too. I'll speak for myself. I won't speak for you, but sort of the grind of games and covering games and everything that's involved around that, having a little fortnight away from that, I do appreciate time to time.
Well, yeah, I mean, lucky you. I just keep doing the blog every day and the podcast the way we do them, so it does make it a little bit more challenging. But then that in itself can be quite fun, to try and think of things to talk about or write about or whatever it is. So it's easier, when the games, it's like game, pre-game, post-game, game, pre-game, post-game. That makes life a lot easier. But
it's a content plan in itself.
Yes. Is it? Oh, do you want to move on from this, or have you got something else on that?
I think, listen, we've talked about internationals enough.
Okay.
Over to you.
On the Discord, Sammy Mockbell in disguise.
Okay, welcome, Sammy, to the Discord.
He says, I think our improvement in discipline so far this season has been massively overlooked. This time last season, reds and penalties had cost us countless points. This season, we are top/bottom of the fair play table by a country mile with no penalties conceded either. Given the tight margins in some of our games, I feel like this is underappreciated as a contribution to our position this season. To what extent do you think this is a product of Arteta's focus on correcting the prior season's mistakes versus a natural outcome of being on top for more games?
Well, I wrote about this, Andrew. We spoke about it on here. I think we looked up the fair play table live and saw that we were
live
top/bottom. And so naturally, the Athletic followed up with a deep dive. But it was quite striking. I think this was written just before the Sunderland game, so some of these numbers will be out of date. But yeah, after 10 games of last season's Premier League, we'd had 24 yellow cards and 3 red. And after 10 games of this season's Premier League, 10 yellow cards, 0 reds.
After 11 games, I can tell you it's 11 yellow cards. So
Martin Zubimendi.
Yeah.
Right? But yeah, it is a dramatic change. Now, a fair point that many have made is it just referees not being dickheads? Because those 3 red cards, most listeners won't need me to remind them. 2 were for
kicking the ball away,
for delay and a restart, Rice and Trossard, and the third was William Saliba at Bournemouth, which was kind of debatable, I think, too.
It was one of those, wasn't it, where it was sort of like, well, if they all get given, fair enough, I suppose. But then there was one in was it the Chelsea game the very next day, and it was only a yellow card in that game, so everyone was understandably a little bit unhappy about that.
But there, when you do look into it deeper, I think there is kind of logic around why this is happening. So Arsenal, they are giving away less fouls than they were last season. They're giving away fouls in different areas of the pitch. In fact, if you compare Arsenal to the rest of the Premier League, and there was quite a nice graphic in the piece about this, and you look at where they give fouls away, it's sort of predominantly in the opposition half. Arsenal are playing, as a rule, higher up the pitch this season than they were last season. And a really interesting thing is Arsenal make more fouls per card than almost any other team in the league. So Arsenal make the second most fouls per card given. They make just over 10 fouls per yellow card given, which is second in the Premier League. It won't surprise you, Andrew, to learn that the most fouls per yellow card, that honour belongs to Newcastle.
How did they do it?
Yeah. Now, I don't know what that means. Does that mean that Arsenal are, giving away a lot of low-value fouls, basically? So the fouls we're making are, not in dangerous areas where referees are more inclined to make a booking? Are we making very discreet, intelligent fouls that aren't getting picked up? But we are, not only are we making less fouls, we are also getting away with more fouls.
It has felt for years like we are more likely to get a yellow card than other teams for similar kinds of fouls. And listen, we had the whole if that was Granit Xhaka thing for years and years and years. I do wonder if there is an element of either maturity or a very, very considered, deliberate plan from Mikel Arteta. Like what they say about referees, good referee is the referee you don't notice. Maybe there's an element of that with Arsenal this season. I can't think of somebody who's made a really bad foul. I can't think of a lunging tackle where it's been mistimed, and there might be something to that idea. Go on.
I can think of one. It's not a bad foul, but I remember. Do you know why it stands out? Because it was really uncharacteristic, and it was Gabriel at Burnley in the 93rd minute. Sliding in on the edge of the box. The free kick award that led to them hitting the post. And it was one of the only moments. It was because it was the 94th minute, and I think he and the team were like, they're not going to have a shot on target in this game. They're certainly not going to score. And it was one of the only sort of rash, sort of lunging challenges. It was one of the only occasions this season that I've seen Arsenal's defence look stretched or panicked. And I think that is sort of the secret, right? Is that we're so structurally strong that when do bookings happen? Like when we were getting loads of sendings off under Arteta, who were they for? They were for your Shakas or your David Luiz, and it was in situations where they were massively stretched and exposed. And I think we have a team structure now that doesn't really place individuals in those positions of maximum exposure.
I think that's absolutely right.
But I also think we've got a bigger squad. So when a player's on a booking, we can take them off, which is something I think Mikel Arteta has learned. It's really interesting because if you go back about a year ago when William Saliba was sent off, Arteta said in his press conference afterwards, he had his issues with the red card itself, but he then said, we cannot continue to play with 10 men at this level. We need to eradicate that. It's clear. The reasons how, it doesn't matter. We have to focus. Now, we did get a further 3 red cards last season.
Well, one of them was overturned.
Yeah, one was overturned. And our disciplinary record did improve in the second half of the season. And it does seem like this season, that focus that he called for is there. And I think you're right. I think it does speak to a maturity and a recognition that whatever we were doing, whether it was right, whether it was wrong, whether the referees were fair or unfair, it was unsustainable.
Yeah, I think there's been a very conscious decision as much as possible, within the sort of parameters of a high-level, high-octane sport, not to give referees the opportunity to punish us for anything, right? And I think that's evident in the way that we behave on the pitch too. There isn't a lot of back chat to referees. I can't think of a situation where the Arsenal players have gone crazy at the ref or just small things within games that, like it or not, human nature being what it is, if you're a referee and you're surrounded by players from one particular team, every time you give a decision, I think it does have an impact on how you referee the game. Rightly or wrongly, it's just human nature, I think. But we've been very careful not to get dragged into situations where we're allowing our behavior to color the influence or the, what's the word I'm looking for here? To basically turn the referees against us.
Engender any bias, yeah. I think, let's not be the villains in the story from the referee's perspective. I think you're right. I think Arsenal players basically are getting their heads down and staying out of trouble. I think it's as simple as that, but I think it is really important. And I think there's a clear benefit. I mean, we were losing, we were playing with 10 men, far too frequently to win a Premier League. So, but yeah, it's an interesting piece, actually. I mean, I've read you most of it just now, to be honest. So, if you want a little bit more, go and have a look.
All right, over to you.
Here's a question. Okay, yeah, King Thierry. Will requesting the Everton game being brought forward come back to bite us? I feel as if we'll rotate the majority of the 11 anyway, so the additional day's rest doesn't make much difference. Whereas Palace will probably rest players in the Conference League and go strong in the League Cup. So their starters will get an additional 24 hours rest.
I mean, do Palace have the ability to rest all their first team players?
In the Conference League?
In the Conference League? They haven't done brilliantly.
No, I think if they win, because bear in mind, they only have to qualify, right? It's like the Champions League, is it? In that it's a big group table. So they only have to be in the top
92.
I mean, they're 9th currently.
Right.
So if they win their next game, I was speaking to a Palace correspondent and they were saying they go to Strasbourg, I think, next week. And they were saying if they win that, they might be able to not quite chuck their final game, but heavily rotate. I mean, I've got to be honest and say it's kind of much of a muchness. I think Arsenal and Arteta will be much more concerned and focused on where they can rest players than what Palace are doing.
Absolutely. I think, when you heard Arteta speak about the Everton game and how they wanted it moved, it was really about us, not so much about Palace. I mean, Palace are going to play on Thursday, then they're going to play Saturday evening again when they play Leeds. I think what struck me most about this fixture change is that if you're a team that's involved in the relegation fight, and Leeds, who I think might be one of those clubs this season who are involved in that, get to play Crystal Palace 2 days after a Conference League game, do you feel a little aggrieved by that? That it sort of hands Leeds a bit of an advantage because they're playing a team that's had to play twice in 48 hours, whereas I think Arsenal, before we play Everton, have like 6 days between those games, and probably the other relegation clubs, if you want to call them that, will have had a good week between the games. That was the one thing that stood out to me for this. Like maybe it comes down to 3 points in the end, and Leeds, if they get 3 points because they played a Palace side that were knackered or whatever it might be, I don't know.
Yeah. You can definitely imagine that being raised in a few press conferences towards the end of the season, can't you? And in a few boardrooms potentially. But yeah, I mean, my main thought actually about the change is that I do feel for our travelling fans, like 8 p.m. in Liverpool. I mean, that's Saturday night. That's not ideal. Yeah,
that's the second time this game has been moved, and lots of fans would have booked their train tickets and everything else. And the reason it's at 8 p.m. on a Saturday evening is because it's for Sky.
TV
they have a broadcast slot there. So listen, I know this is above Arteta's pay grade, but this was a decision that maybe in the fullness of time, if you're an away fan and come the end of the season, resting or getting another day's rest for this game ends up with us winning the title, it's something you can say, okay, they did that for the benefit of the team, and ultimately, we're happy because we've won the league, etc., etc. But if you're a couple of £100 out, train tickets are not cheap in England, are they, these days?
Nope.
And then, of course, because it's an 8 o'clock game on Saturday, there's no trains back at that point. So you either get the coach, I think the club are laying on coaches, but like how long is a coach from Liverpool to North London? 4 hours? Minimum?
Yeah.
Minimum. And then where? Do you get dropped off? Not it's not going to drop you at your front door. It's a long old bit of travel, or you've got to pay for overnight accommodation in Liverpool that night, So it is it's a difficult one for those away fans who go every week. And I think when they talk about, well, we've got to take the supporters into account here, it's a good thing to say, but it doesn't happen in practicality, does it?
No, I remember Mikel saying there were kind of two priorities: first, player welfare, and then fans. And I think the player welfare point has been respected here, and I understand that, but yeah, it's not great for fans at all. So there we go. But as you rightly point out, if Arsenal win the Carabao Cup and the Premier League, then I don't think there'll be too many complaints. So.
All right, what about this one? Barino7 on the Discord. Hello, gents. After France beat Ukraine 4-0, the French site SoFoot gave the following comment on William Saliba's performance. They say he is the guy in PE who can't run but is somehow faster than everybody else. What do you make of this? Does he have a weird running style, or does he look a bit clumsy at times? This is totally new to me.
Yeah. I don't think of him as clumsy, I must say. I feel like when we speak about him here, we talk about his kind of grace, right? And
elegance.
Sort of elegance, exactly that. And I must say, he's not a player who, we speak about Arsenal's structure and formation and shape, meaning players aren't stretched. I don't remember too many occasions this season where I've seen him in a full sprint. Really.
Mm.
You know, I always remember when he was, perhaps it was in a loan spell, one of his loan spells in France. I can't remember which one. There was that great clip of him herring back against Kylian Mbappe. Do you remember the one?
Yeah. Making a tackle.
Making a last-ditch tackle. And it was a really impressive feat to kind of keep pace with, you know, one of the most explosive strikers in world football. So he is quick. But I think the way Arsenal play, and because his anticipation and his positioning is generally very good as well, he's not called upon to use it too much. But I'll have to be keeping an eye out now. I do think generally in France, it seems to me that the perception of Saliba is not quite what it is in England. Like, I think he's maybe one of those players who slightly, despite having played in Liga quite considerably, slightly suffers from being abroad, you know, and you've seen that, you know, maybe in most recent international tournament with selection and things like that. I think he's not quite on the pedestal that he is in this country. Because they're not watching him week in, week out and seeing how imperious he can be.
Yeah.
But I don't know. What did they say? The kid in PE?
The guy in PE who can't run but is somehow faster than everybody else. I mean, I've never seen that guy in PE.
Who is that guy?
There was always the guy who was faster than everybody else, but that's because he was the fastest runner guy. He was really good at running. Well, the rest of us...
It's not a good line. He's like the guy in PE who could run.
Yeah.
That's if I'd written the player ratings, that would have been my kind of phrase.
Speaking of player ratings.
Yes. Critical T.
He's back. He's back.
He's back, Andrew. And he said, here is the latest edition of the player ratings game. This time we're looking at the season so far. Good luck. So, no excuses here, really, Andrew. The season so far, it's only November. We should have a chance. Okay, rating 1.
Okay.
7.5 out of 10. In the first half, he had a goal disallowed and more shots than any other Arsenal player. Also, defensively, very solid again.
Okay, I think that is Ricardo Calafiori.
So do I.
What game did he have a goal disallowed in? It was quite recently. Yeah. It was a brilliant finish.
Was it Trossard just touched it into him?
Mm-hmm. And he was just offside. I can see the goal, but for the life of me, I can't
Away
see
from home,
the opposition. Is it Fulham away?
I think it might be. I was going to say Burnley, but I think it might be Fulham. Let's have a look. It is Ricardo Calafiori. Yes. It is Fulham away.
Okay, maximum points from the first one.
Great start. Front runners. It's ours to lose.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And we can do it, don't worry.
One of us gets injured. It all unravels. Okay. Rating 2, 9 out of 10. A fine riposte to all those who've written him off. Was on the pitch for 36 seconds when he found the net, following a solo counter-attack that saw him carry the ball half the length of the pitch with 3 touches. Full of confidence, he then produced a nifty assist for teammate after taking on his marker. Very pleased for him. I think I know that one.
I think I know who it is. I think it's Gabriel Martinelli.
Yes.
Is it Atletico Madrid?
I think, Andrew, you were there.
I was?
You were. In a city in the Basque region.
Yes, of course. In Bilbao, Athletic Bilbao. Athletic Club.
That was the start of the Martinelli essence.
I like that.
Yeah. You can have that. We've
Okay.
just coined that. You'll be seeing that on mugs soon. Okay. Rating 3. You're flying here, Andrew.
Okay.
6.5 out of 10. Only William Saliba made more clearances for Arsenal today, which tells you something about how hard he worked, but also a lot about the overall performance today.
So it's going to be a player who isn't a defender who made a lot of clearances.
Yeah.
Is it Zubimendi?
Could be Zubimendi. I haven't clicked yet. I think it might be Declan Rice.
Okay.
But let's see. Andrew, we're both wrong.
Okay. Who is it?
It's Martin Odegaard.
Martin Odegaard. What game was that then?
What game could that be?
Because he's hardly played at all. What game? Presumably an away game.
But when did he? What games has he played? A game where we're on the back foot, right?
Was it Newcastle?
Let's find out. We should have figured that out, maybe. It was Old Trafford on the opening day.
Ah, okay.
It was a long time ago now.
Well,
okay.
We're throwing it away here.
Rating 4 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no, sorry. Rating 4, 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10.
There we go. I was going to say, we've not had many 4 out of 10 performances this season. Poor for their goal. Even a cursory challenge would have likely made it more difficult for opposition player to head that well. But boy, did he make up for it. 3 tackles, 3 interceptions, 9 clearances, and 1 goal to break their scabby little hearts.
I know this one. This is Gabriel against Newcastle.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
I remember that.
Okay. Rating 5. 6 out of 10. Could he have gotten his shot away quicker from that Dowman pass? Nobody knows. That's the beauty of football.
What the fuck?
I actually think I know that.
So when did
Dowman pass came in the Carabao Cup.
The Carabao Cup?
Against Preston, I believe it was.
Okay, so Dowman came on as a sub in that game.
So did this player.
So then I'm thinking Victor Gyökeres.
He's got it.
Come on.
I put that on a plate for you, Andrew.
Thank you, Sir Phil of Foden.
Yeah. Andrew, your performance in the player ratings game owed a lot to James there.
Absolutely. It's all about the pass. All about the pass.
It's all about the assist there.
Listen, I beat 6 players, put it in the top corner from 45 yards with a Rabona. But, it was all about the pass.
Yeah, quite right. Is that our lot, Andrew?
I think that is our lot for today. We might as well get this out. Yeah. We'll.
The next one is a biggie.
Ooh, it is as well, isn't it? Because next Sunday is the North London Derby. So, yes, let's hope next Monday morning is a very goodly morning as well. So, look, we will leave it there. Thank you to everybody. Thank you, by the way, to everybody who gave us a vote for the FSA Awards. I think the voting closed or closes at midday today at the time of recording, but by the time this comes out, the voting will be closed. So if you did take the time to give us a vote for that, we do really, really appreciate it. Stick with us. We'll have more later in the week, a regular Arsecast as well. And of course, we'll look forward to the North London Derby over on Patreon with a preview podcast on Friday as well. For now, though, take it easy, folks, and we will catch you on the next one. Oh, you're gone. Okay, hang on. Let me just refresh this, and I think you're back. Yeah, I did my bit, and I was waiting for a bye-bye, and it never came.
Oh, and you know what? I thought it was a really good bye-bye, and it's lost now.
See if you can replicate it.
Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Are we going to keep this bit in?
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
I think I need the cue. I think I need the feed line, Andrew.
Blah, 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 blah. Catch you on the next one. Until then, cheers.
Bye-bye.
You're right. That was a good one.
There you go.